What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through tonight's 5-game slate in the association. Nice medium-sized slate. I'll take it. 5 games. We can get out of here pretty quickly. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Had a nice little podcast with you talking trade. A couple teams on the slate involved in some trades, a few actually. So should be fun to break down. Got a little bet off for I think a place where I feel pretty good about the minutes. Let's talk about that. And excited to break it down. This, I love these little 5 to 8 game slates.
All right, let's get into it from a game-by-game perspective. Let's start with Chicago and Toronto. On the Chicago side of things, Ayo Dosunmu probable, Andre Drummond probable, Dalen Terry probable, Patrick Williams questionable. So Patrick Williams, the most notable player here on the injury report. What are your expectations for the Bulls tonight?
Yeah, definitely a chance Patrick Williams misses. He missed practice, and he's been dealing with this ankle for a while. We saw him listed as probable for a long time, like back last year. So could miss. Maybe they just set him up for practice to kind of give him some time off. We'll see, because he has been kind of managing this injury. So if he misses, the thing that was interesting the most in the last game was the double big lineup. We saw the Cavs are kind of killing the Bulls on the boards, and Billy Donovan pulled out a really wild lineup playing Vooch and Drummond together for substantial minutes. So that looks like he liked it. He said he'd be open to doing it again. So we could see some double big overlap. That would obviously really help Vooch and obviously Drummond's minutes from a minutes floor standpoint. Matchup's pretty good against really weak interior guys on the Toronto side, especially with Siakam out now. And then, we'd see a little more Dalen Terry, maybe Javon Carter. Ayo Dosunmu also hurt his shoulder again. This has been a lingering thing, but he's okay. Probable. Should be in there. And then obviously, Kobe White, Levine, DeMar, they're playing a ton. So, it would kind of be like, it's kind of weird that I think low-key Drummond would be a sneaky beneficiary if Patrick Williams had missed. And then, of course, Alex Caruso would have a much higher minutes floor ceiling combo, but we don't really like him anyways. We like him for defense. We don't like him for fantasy.
I was going to highlight that the Patrick Williams absence, I think, is what heavily contributed to that lineup combination. Yep. I'm not sure we would see it if Patrick Williams was available. Will note just in general, since Zach LaVine has been back, they've been mediocre and kind of bad again. Mm-hmm. And part of that is with the Zach LaVine lineups, they do not rebound the ball very well and they do not defend very well. Mm-hmm. And at least when Zach LaVine is out of those lineups, they defend really well. And so that's been kind of the issue for the Bulls, is they can't get enough extra possessions offensively or defensively to make up for what they're giving away defensively with LaVine from an efficiency perspective. So, it's a struggle out there for the Bulls. Our Toronto side of things, they're still without Jakob Poeltl and Otto Porter Jr. They released Christian Koloko as part of the trade, so we will not have any more updates on Christian Koloko's respiratory illness that's kept him out for the rest of the season. But on the Toronto side, question mark on whether they'll have Bruce Brown available. He's not listed on the injury report. The beat reporters have mentioned specifically that he is available, but they don't know if he will play. So that's the big question mark on Bruce Brown. What are your expectations for Toronto tonight?
Yeah, actually, so it's kind of weird. So Bruce Brown is listed on the injury report. I'm going to pull it up. He's listed on the injury report with Indiana. So I'm not sure if that's what's going on here. And I have no idea. I don't really see this. So just wanted to note that. So we got him out for now. Usually you don't see these guys going through. We just saw Pascal Siakam landed in Indiana, according to their Twitter page. So we're leaning out right now, which makes sense. And of course, I was so excited about betting Miami yesterday. We know how that goes when you get excited about betting Miami when the Raptors started 11-16 from 3 and just beat the pants off Miami in this one. So that's not allowed to bet on. Not betting on Miami. My New Year's resolution. I need my 20 and after alarms back on for the show, so I'm cutting that one short. So starting lineup. I don't really see any reason why this would change. The Gary Trent 3-point lineup was really effective. Could it be matchup based? Sure, but the matchup A+ doesn't get any better than Chicago. So Gary Trent would find himself in the best spot possible for a 3-point shooting, assuming he does start. Scotty obviously playing a ton. Jonte kind of held his own as him and Thad covered most of the center minutes as we predicted. Chris Boucher getting a little bit here and there. Shrew's minutes are pretty strong. So, I feel pretty good. This would be a mostly run-it-back situation. Maybe we get an update on Bruce. If he does change things, maybe comes off the bench. Not really sure how that would break out, but Darko seemed to pretty kind of like the situation. And you really should note, the horrible passing of the Warriors assistant coach. Darko's pretty good friends with him. They were on the same coaching staff for the Serbian team. His first ATO was a play that the Warriors assistant had designed, so it kind of made me tear up a little bit, watching that. And he told his guys he loved them and stuff. So he's pretty emotional. As much as it pained me to lose money on this game, it was really a nice win for Toronto.
Yep. Let's move to Washington and New York. On the Washington side of things, Daniel Gafford is listed out with a concussion. They will have Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Livers available post-trade. What are your expectations for the Wizards tonight?
Yeah, so the bet we just got off was Marvin Bagley. And Ryan and I, we were doing the minutes this morning, and we were trying to find minutes for center. And, we had Bagley around 25, 26, and we were trying to find minutes, trying to okay, do we give Patrick Baldwin some? Do we give Anthony Gill some? He's played some center. How much center minutes do we give Kuzma against the Knicks team that rebounds well? And so we kind of bumped him up, and then you and Dank and a few other people were like, let's bring him down back to where we were. And we still had it over. So I felt pretty good about taking this bet. It's pretty gross to take an over on Marvin Bagley, but we've even seen Daniel Gafford get up there for minutes, and we've seen Marvin Bagley have a higher minute ceiling than Gafford does. So I feel pretty strongly that, Bagley's got a pretty good chance for a pretty big minute ceiling. Matchup's not really good, but you're just hoping that they want to play this way against the Knicks team that rebounds really, really well. So that's the Bagley side. Isaiah Livers could be available to play. Josh Robbins had tweeted out that he will be, playing-ish. So that kind of brings up a question. They've got wings, right? They've got Kuzma, they've got Poole, they've got Abdia, Bilal Coulibaly, and Corey Kispert are locked in. So does he take Landry Shamet's minutes? And you're basically moving Corey Kispert, who was more of a 3, to more of a 2. I think that makes sense. So I think that Landry Shamet could kind of get bumped out. I don't think DeLon will, because DeLon's too valuable for defense. And then, as I mentioned, it's a total hodgepodge. We think Patrick Baldwin is the backup 5 for now. We saw that last game. Certainly a different matchup. But, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So I hope that maps out the rotation. But really the headline is I think Marvin Bagley has a pretty big upside today.
Yeah, tricky situation to project the Wizards just generally. We've had 3 games without Gafford this season, and in those 3 games, one was against Boston. No starter in that game. They started Kuzma at center. Kuzma or Coulibaly. Coulibaly started alongside Kuzma. No starter got above 28 minutes basically in that game. Blowout situation. Mm-hmm. Another game was against Atlanta, which was a very favorable matchup. In that game, this was a 9-point game, but again, no starter got above 25 minutes. It was a game that the bench ran really heavily. And then the third game was against the 76ers and Joel Embiid. And that one you think oh my God, what are they going to do at the center position? They start Mike Muscala. He ends up playing 20 minutes in that game. They fill the other center minutes through Danilo Gallinari playing 10, Eugene Omignori playing 2, Anthony Gill playing 10. So this is a team that has had a few situations this year where they've been without any centers and still nobody's really gotten there, which is the hesitation on my end of things is just I don't know with them. And it's just an unknown situation. So betting into unknown situations always a little bit tricky. I think you want to try to lean in where you feel like you have more leeway and more room. We feel like we have more leeway and more room to the upside than the downside. But always a tricky situation. A new player integrating new role. You don't know if they're going to maintain the same usage that they used before, and so on and so forth. So Bagley, wide range of outcomes tonight, just generally is what I would say.
Yeah, and then we got starters jerseys at practice. Him and Tyus running in the first unit. They were not on the same. I would have loved to talk about how they were on the same Duke team. They were not, despite that much. I was all ready to talk about that, but I had it in the cannon, but not ready to go.
Speaking of college teammates, let's get to the Knicks. Josh Hart is questionable here with the left knee issue. He was able to play through this and play through it effectively the other night. Mitchell Robinson still out here. What are your expectations for the Knicks?
Yeah, this seems like a maintenance thing for Josh Hart, so certainly could see him miss. And as we mentioned with the Brunson thing, just a calf contusion, that's usually a day-to-day thing. They wanted to get him right. They're playing him so many minutes. So I think that made sense to make sure he was ready to go. As you mentioned, played really, really well. Interestingly, him and I didn't watch a lot of this game, but it was a lot of Brunson and Van Vliet according to the matchup data and from some of the highlights that I was watching, anyways, not necessarily highlights, I should say, film boys. So, I think Brunson will be good to go. certainly have to worry about garbage time. We know Tibbs doesn't really add guys to garbage time. We saw Isaiah Hartenstein, not quite 44 for Gary, but does get to 41. OG just so many minutes, man. They played him. They just play him so much. They staggered him with the second unit a little bit last game. And then, if Josh Hart doesn't play, they're probably going to go, a little bit smaller. We saw Quentin Grimes get in there. He'll play a little bit more. It could just be really tight. And hopefully they're probably hoping they could kind of dominate. We haven't really seen the Deuce McBride overlap with Brunson. Maybe that's on the table a little bit more here just because they're trying to find bodies and McBride's been pretty good. So it's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, if Hart were out, I think that would be on the table because I think he'd just be kind of emphasizing getting the best players available. The other thing that we should note is if Hart were unavailable, you could see Evan Fournier make an appearance in part because it could be kind of a showcase season for Evan Fournier. He's going to be the player that's most likely to be moved from the Knicks if they're to make any sort of acquisition. So it might be an opportunity to get him 15, 16 minutes of action. So some other team, I think anybody acquiring Evan Fournier isn't really acquiring him for his play as opposed to his contract. So I don't think it's a huge deal. You could also go the other route and say, hey, they might not play him at all because you don't want to have a guy get hurt. So tough to sift through there, but he would theoretically be next in line to get into a rotation if they were to expand the rotation. All right, Oklahoma City and Utah. Oklahoma City injury report entirely clean, so nothing to talk about there. The Utah side, they just have their G Leaguers listed out, so pretty clean there. What are your thoughts on the Oklahoma City and Utah game tonight?
They did actually just update. The Utah just updated something, and they upgraded Taylor Hendricks to Q. I'll read the rest of it right now in a second here. But OKC's good to go. They're not should pretty much be straightforward here. I don't really have much to say. SGA should be in a pretty good matchup, even though Chris Dunn. I don't have much to say. It's kind of straightforward.
Yep. Producer Ryan checking in to let all of our fans out there know ETR NBA podcast episode 340 is available on YouTube now. So when we're done here, you can go right to that and check out our thoughts on the recent Pascal Siakam trade.
Yep.
All right. Any other notes on Oklahoma City, Utah? Yeah.
So it was Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh upgraded to questionable. They're not going to play anyway unless there's something they're not telling us.
Right. Okay. Indiana and Sacramento. On the Indiana side, very full injury report. Tyrese Halliburton questionable, Benedict Mathurin questionable, Aaron Nesmith questionable, Obi Toppin questionable, and then the G Leaguers are questionable. And of course, they have lost via trade Bruce Brown and Jordan Nwora. So what are your expectations on what we see from Indiana tonight? I'm assuming we're not going to see Pascal Siakam tonight, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, he landed in Indiana, I think today, based on when the Pacers tweeted that out. So that would be a pretty quick flight to go to Sacramento. So not expecting him to play today. Should be in Portland tomorrow. So let's talk about these Q tags and let's talk about who's most likely and who's not. Feel confident, and we actually have him out. We have Obi Toppin out of the projections. He has a calf strain according to the injury report. Rick Carlisle said he could not do contact yesterday. That's a pretty good sign you're going to miss games if you can't do contact in practice. So feel pretty strongly he's out. On the other side, Nesmith, full practice, ready to go. I'd be pretty surprised if he's not back out there. And then in the middle, I don't have anything on Halliburton. This is a back-to-back. Do they want to bring him in now? Revenge game? Do they want to bring him in with Siakam tomorrow? I don't know. So we have him in. Don't have much to go on. He's kind of on the timeline that we heard from Woj about missing a week for a grade 1 hamstring strain. So we have him in, a little bit limited. We'll see. We've seen this multiple Q tag BS from the Pacers before, namely Miles Turner a year and a half ago, whatever it was. So, but yeah, we just don't have much to go on. And then lastly, Ben Mathurin, who rolled his ankle, pretty good, came back out there, played, and got pulled out. Much to our chagrin, we had an over on him. So we have him in. Didn't look terrible, so I think he's got a shot to play. He only went through one-on-one in contact, according to Rick Carlisle. So, yeah, he could miss too. So him and Halliburton are very unclear, but feel very strongly Obi's out and feel pretty strongly Nesmith's in.
All right. Kings side, nothing on their injury report today. So any notes on the Kings before we move to Memphis and Minnesota?
There's 10 players in the injury report for the Pacers and literally 0 for the Kings, which is pretty funny. Let's talk about some returns and some rotation notes. The big rotation note was Sasha Vezenkov kind of locked in a big rotation spot. We saw this kind of influx, whether they would go do Juan Toscano-Anderson. Sometimes they would throw in some guards in there. They really just condensed with De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and Kevin Huerter at the guard spots. Obviously, Keegan. Harrison Barnes had one of his best minutes games when Keegan's in there, that was good for him. Didn't really produce though. And then Trey Lyles minutes were cut down a little bit there. But yeah, healthy, good to go. Sabonis, big minutes. And this is really a pretty consistent thing that Mike Brown is running real tight, man. So especially if Halliburton's playing, this game is just lights out from a pace standpoint with two of the fastest teams in the NBA and two really good offenses. Certainly a nice little late night hammer.
Yep. All right, Memphis and Minnesota. Minnesota side, I saw a tweet from the Beat who said nobody was listed on the injury report, but on the 130 they had not filed. So waiting for the 230 for full update there. But they are on the second night of back-to-back. We thought maybe you'd see Mike Conley pop up on the injury report, but it sounds like they're going to be all set and good to go. Memphis side, they are without John Morant, Derrick Rose, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and Desmond Bane. So all of the guards they're still without. What are we dealing with for Memphis tonight?
Yeah, I'm kind of freezing. Still got me?
Yep. Still have your audio at least, yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, obviously this was a huge rotation change. We talked about how GG Jackson was coming on quite strongly in the last game. Sorry, my computer's going pretty slow trying to pull this box score up here. But we kind of know the situation. The big surprise, which was Jacob Gilyard getting bounced out, which wasn't a huge surprise because they actually closed with Luke Kennard in the last game. So I wasn't surprised to see, and actually, they subbed him in, Luke Kennard for point guard minutes all over the place here. Still got me? I'm kind of really lagging here.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we saw Luke Kennard start the point with Zaire, whose minutes were pretty cut down. And then the headlines were Vince Williams, who guarded Steph and guarded him pretty well, had one of the most impactful games late in the game when he was guarding Steph, got Steph to dribble the ball off his leg. That kind of like swung the game and got Memphis on a run. So I feel pretty confident they're going to start the same starting lineup of Luke Kennard, Zaire, Vince Williams, Jaren Jackson, Xavier Tillman, and then the bench, GG Jackson, man. This dude is 19 years old, and he shows it, man. He shows up to the presser post-gamer with Spider-Man pajama pants on. And like I'm sure most of you guys saw the Shaq clip when he had the face when Shaq was talking to him. Just really, really cool. Just some backstory on him. He kind of moved up a year eligibility-wise because he was going to be a top recruit, but he wanted to come out earlier. So he should be like a college freshman right now. It's pretty cool. So, yeah. Those guys are pretty locked in. Santi Aldama locked in. David Roddy. So it's going to be, I think, the same rotation. John Conchar pretty much out. We'll see if Jaren can kind of get going. We'll see if they can hang around. Certainly, tough matchup against the Wolves. But yeah, Vince is absolutely taking off. GG, I think, has got this rotation locked up for now. Don't know if he could play this well like he's been playing the last two games. And then, I can't believe freaking Jacob Gilyard goes 3 for 4 and buries anyone who thought they got some sweet stale lines with him off the bench. But expecting the same rotation.
And then any notes on Minnesota before we get out of here?
No, I was trying to pull up their PR report, but we'll just take Dane Moore's word for it. But should be good to go. Ant came out fine. Chris Finch was most upset about. He had like two big takes in his pressers. One was Ant complaining. He got a tech that was inexcusable, and they played pretty poorly. Like they should have smashed the Pistons, but they didn't. So, and then he also talked about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a pretty big impact in this game. So he's kind of separated himself as one of the main bench guys with slow-mo. Actually cut into slow-mo a little bit yesterday. So, but yeah, should be good to go.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you're enjoying the content that we're putting here out on this channel, please support the channel by subscribing to our channel. You can also hit the bell and get notifications whenever we go live or post new content, including episode 340 of the Established Run NBA podcast, which was just posted by producer Ryan on the feed. So check that out after this. Get our takes on the Pascal Siakam trade as well as the Marvin Bagley trade and how that impacts rotations going forward. If you're interested in some of our premium content, you can check out establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details around our premium DFS and player props content. You can find myself and Mike Gallagher behind the paywall tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern, breaking down the slate from a DFS perspective, the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, and of course, the flag plants. So check us out there. As always, the best way to support this free content, if you want to keep it free, is to feed that algorithm and help us grow our brand and the people that are watching this show. So the best way to do that is to feed that algorithm by smashing that like button. You smash the like button, it feeds the algorithm, which helps feed our families and allows us to feed you the free NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll be back tomorrow with Justin Fan.